So as you guys know, right, today's session is about banking financial sector. So it's an interesting sector to be in during this times when things are changing a lot, and especially with the way banking has to evolve in everything going around us, right? So that's where like we'll present how we can actually take banking into that new era of digitalness, uh, where banking can produce smart products for their customers to obviously delight the customer experience, right? So we'll go through some of the. So the idea is like we'll go through the slides. I have quite a few slides, and then I'll try to show some demos which will relate to you in multiple ways, and we'll at the end take question answers. Yeah. Some part for confidentiality. I think that's fine. Yeah, so I'm sure most of you might know about TIPCO, but just a brief intro about TIPCO. TIPCO is a global organization with presence in multiple geographies. BCT manages a TIPCO business in Middle East, North Africa, as well as India region. So we are TIPCO in India. We serve a lot of customers in India, in Middle East, and across the globe. We have a lot of customers, especially banking and financial services is one of the top sector for us, where we work with a lot of big organizations across the globe and in the country as well. Uh, TIPCO is basically, as a company, we do three primary things, and that's I'm sure that relates with every banking organization a lot, which is basically connecting. So our idea is to connect everything out there, be it data, people, processes, anything you can imagine, connect to those things. Once uh, those things are connected, it's important to unify the data which we are getting from them, because the unification of the data is something which will help you to make meaningful predictions, right? So that's where the unification is the second step. And once the unification has happened, obviously we'll take that for our prediction purpose. So that's the entire story of TIPCO: connect, unify, and predict. In today's session, we'll primarily talk about the predict part, where we'll see how we can use analytical technologies for solving a lot of banking problems, right? And when we talk about analytics, uh, we have like primarily four component. One is data management, in which we have data virtualization and master data management. This is something we won't cover that much in today's session. Our focus will be on visual analytics, predictive analytics, and streaming analytics. But just in case if you have questions around data management, feel free to put it on the chat box, and we'll come back to you on one-to-one sessions for data management. So the good thing about TIPCO is like with our platform, what you get is on a single platform you can do visual analytics, predictive analytics, and streaming analytics, and I'll show how these three components can actually help you build banking products which will really help your customers in many different ways, right? So that's the goal of the session as well. When we talk about this, before I go into detail of those things, right, I just want to mention that the product or the technology which I'll be talking about is something which is highly regarded by the industry itself, as well as a lot of the analysts out there, right? So if you see our visual analytics product, it's a leader in Forrester Wave for both cloud as well as on-prem, which is vendor managed as well as client managed. We are pretty much in the leader quadrant for our BI platform. Data science platform is one of the strongest platform of TIPCO, again being in the leader with likes of many big competition. And streaming analytics is again the thing which we are again in the leader of Forrester in. And again, this streaming analytics is something which helps us to connect the piece of analysis into action, right? So that's where we go from insights. So insights is something you will drive from your data using visual and predictive analytics, but the action is something you will take when you can actually connect to the data in real time and take actions on it. And I'll talk about this in detail as well, so don't worry about that. Yeah. Again, in data management also, we are pretty much in the leader quadrant with again a lot of competition out there, but in leader quadrant we are pretty much strong with our foot over there. Starting with analytics is in banking, right? Everyone is talking about analytics these days, and why banking need it is the prime question everyone has, right? And I'm sure most of you might know, but I'll try to keep it very simple on why part. So for me, whenever I work with any organization, my thought process is there has to be three main, like any project has to deliver some goals, right? That, and those goals are very important. So for any organization, the three important goals I'm sure would matter is revenue generation, how you can get new revenue or increase your existing revenue with existing customers. Cost reduction, basically how you can optimize your operations, how you can basically increase your bottom line. That's very important. And then obviously risk mitigation for any business is very important, especially again in this challenging environment where you see things changing every day very dynamically. And I like to start this with a story, right? So if you think about banking, right? Banking is nothing but it's all about serving your customers at the end. It's all about helping your customers to get credit, and at times for them to be a place where they can invest money and gain more money out of it, right? That's a core banking job. But if you see uh, the complexity at which banking operates these days, the operational it has become a big bubble kind of a thing, right? In its own sense. So in that way, it's very important to have that wheel of operationalization in such a way that you are basically able to move things very smoothly, right? By and focusing more on the customer experience rather than focusing on your running the business as usual, right? And there is a story, right? And banking is again a very competitive environment with a lot of banks out there. Everyone is running for the same market share which is available. And there is a very similar industries of paints. So in paints, it's very easy to manufacture, it's very easy to produce it, and but you have to take care of your customer to basically win in the race, right? And that's where a company like Asian Paints, I follow that company a lot. And one of the reason I feel that company has grown significantly over past so many years is they focus on customer. They know their customer a lot. They know in each pin code, in each zip code, what their customer wants. And that is the mindset I feel every industry, specifically banking, should apply to gain more market share or to serve the customer at a very grassroots level. So it's very important to understand your customer, like what your customer need, and that need can be different in a very different location. So that kind of analysis, that kind of predictiveness, an organization should be ready to do when it comes on executing the banking, the entire operations environment. And that's where a lot of money, a lot of revenue generation, a lot of operational optimization can be done, obviously by taking care the risk part of it when you are dealing with money, obviously, right? So that's the primary thought. And this is like again applicable to retail banking, your equities, the financial services company who are purely into trading, be it money market, be it equities, be it commodities, right? So it's, and especially insurance again, because the country is so big that you have to really penetrate into a very various new zone, and you need to understand your customer in very different ways in different regions to basically serve them in a specific way. So it's very critical to uh, use analytics to build your product in such a way that you can actually serve in a very personalized manner to your end users. So that's the goal, and that's how you can do it is something we'll see in the next slide. But this is the why part of it, why you actually need analytics in banking, what I feel. Yeah, so we'll start with visual analytics. So the flow is like we'll talk about visual analytics, how it can help banking organization. We'll go into predictive analytics, we'll go into streaming analytics, we'll try to tie up everything together at the end. And once those things are tied up, we'll talk about how again some demos and some use cases, how actually end to end things help, right? So what is visual analytics? Visual analytics, as I'm sure this is the most common subject which has the most familiarity in terms of analytics with everyone out there. I'm sure like a lot of people know about BI, a lot of people know about dashboarding, charts, all the data storytelling and so on. But the idea again is, it's not about obviously it's about storytelling, it's about the dashboard, but the idea is itself to gain some meaningful insights from the data. And that's where we tend to think and build our product so that it can help our customers to build their own solutions or products, right? So that's the idea. So it's all about being smart, being collaborative, being configurable, and obviously the user experience has to be beautiful and immersive in that overall sense. And that's what we provide in a very simple box. And using that, there are a lot of use case which banking organization actually helps with. So to start with, right, we recently added a capability for NLQ. So natural language query is something where we allow the end user to just type and get the answers for whatever you are typing in a very visual format. So if you want to know something, how many trade has happened over last 24 hours, how much today, how much transaction happened today in your retail banking environment, or how many insurance we have sold in a particular zip code or in a particular city, you can get all of that information just by typing it, rather than looking at some charts or graphs. So that's what we tend to do with natural language query. This is very very cool, and it's actually taking the BI to a new level of self-serviceness, where end users can actually ask question and get answers to the question itself, right? Next obviously is for a lot of the executives out there, I'm sure, right, the biggest concern is to have those high level pictures or high level information of the business, how the business is going. So in general, how the business is going, how the revenue is progressing, if there are specific cash flow, if there is like how is my how are my margins going on, what is the net interest income on my total uh, portfolio, how is my asset under management doing with respect to a lot of the other competition or the indexes in general, how is my insurance business going in general, and what is my like how is my utilization of the resources. So all of those key critical aspects which matter to business, right? And that's what we try to cover with CXO dashboards. These are very critical. Again, we work with a lot of organizations, especially organizations which get data from multiple places, right? So you might have a setup where you might be receiving the data from multiple the subdivisions or sub branches. If it is not all centralized, it can be the case, right? We still see, we work with a lot of institutions like central banks, where we get data from multiple banks, and then we need to basically project it for risk analysis or for high level KPI information for central banks to take decisions, right? So that's the kind of thing you might want to think about when you are thinking about dashboard. It's not always about just getting the output, but how you basically orchestrate that entire process of getting the data from multiple places, putting that up together in a single place, and then visualizing it. That's actually the harder part than building the dashboard most of the times. And we do all with our visual analytics suits very easily. So that's again a very very critical things for banking, to basically look at high level and say that how is my business going on. And again, it's applicable to insurance, banking, financial services company, all equally. I'm sure a lot of you guys might already be doing it, but how you can do more kind of things, right? For example, how you can how you can analyze what's your market share kind of an analysis is, right? So if you are dealing with a particular market, you might want to know in which geography, how good you are doing compared to the rest of others, right? So you might want to do some market share analysis, so that you know that where you can sell more and where you can sell less. You want to understand how your people are actually selling. If you are especially in insurance, if you are in financial services, how your people are selling based on different geography. So you can have that information at country level. So this is like, if you imagine, this is like at the entire state levels of the country. And again, you can go to any state and see who is performing how and how they are doing actually, so that the rest of them can be motivated, and how they can run around more businesses in different ways. So that's the kind of analysis you might want to do. Again, you can go more drill down. Again, this is like how you can select few geographies and basically look at those information. You can actually go a deep one level down and see at the city levels also, which I'll show you in the next slide. But the idea itself is to understand how you are selling in a particular geography or a location and compare it with the basket or the market share and try to analyze where you have more growth, right? Just looking at the state or the country level data is good, but going down detail to the zip code level is something which will give you benefit, because if you target more specific, you will get more specific results, and that's the advantage we want you to get with looking at the details of even at the customer level, right? How the customers are performing in a particular geography. And I'll talk about this more in predictive analytics, because how you can use predictive analytics to basically identify in a particular geography what are the kind of patterns that your model is able to find, and then apply it to basically do more cross sell and upsell. And as I said, I'll talk more about it in predictive analytics part as well. Yeah. So again, the other type of analysis is because a lot of the organizations work with giving the credit, right? So the loan analysis is very important. And again, here, especially NBFCs and the likes of the banks, right? All are into it, where they lend to a lot of their customers or even to industries, right? As they are lending, they need to understand where the problems, try to understand as early as they can where they are seeing the problem. So they need to understand if there's a correlation between the geography or a particular type of lending they are doing, or by a type of customer segment which is giving them issues, right? And the more early they are able to detect those kind of things, the better it is for them. And again, when you are doing this kind of analysis, you might want to mix it up with like the collateral you have. So for example, even if something is going bad, you might want to run some simulation or do what if analysis in a way that if even if my X percentage of things goes for toss, how much I can recover back, or how can I reposition back my by selling of the assets under the guarantee I have, or without the guarantee as well, right? So it's basically try to run some simulation, try to do some analysis within the visual analytics aspects of the things, by setting up few parameters, by doing that what if analysis, by changing different scenarios. We even do like a lot of, if a customer has a requirement, we even run Monte Carlo kind of simulation to detect a lot of the simulation, or to do a lot of the simulation over the same set of data to basically get you that kind of uh, to cover the various scenarios which you can look at, right, when you are doing this analysis. And again, this is very critical for companies involved in giving credit, especially non-banking financial sectors and banking uh, there. Again, I was telling about the geoanalytics, right? How you can operationally make it more efficient. So this is like, as I was saying, so you can actually look at the data at maybe at the states level. You can go into the county level, and again, you can go one more level to the district level. And the colors you are seeing here, the red ones are basically the ones which are giving you more problems. The green ones are more or the lighter ones are the ones where you are getting more benefit out of things, right? And the same, you can see the information at the county level, and as I was saying, the same you can see the information at the state level. So the idea is basically, and again, you can go to the customer level also if you want. So you can go one more level down and say that I want to look at customer details. So that's the kind of holisticness we are talking about, to go from the country level to state level to district level to your customer level, and then try to visualize what is happening. So, and if you build this kind of a tool and give it to your relationship managers, they can actually look at this information and try to identify where problem is happening and where problem is not happening. And they won't have to do anything to get this thing ready, right? Because this all things can be managed centrally through a central data source, by building the this kind of smart visualizations on top of it. So it's really cool, it's really good the way things can be done in this particular aspect. Yeah. The next is, because obviously like a lot of the, again, in operational improvement, right, a lot of the banks and again NBFCs have a lot of processes, so it's important to understand those processes independent of the tools you are using for processes, right? So you might want to have like a place where you can actually get the process data, try to analyze it, what is happening in each step of the process, where things are getting stuck, where things are getting passed smoothly, which one is taking the most amount of time. Because the more operationally efficient you are, the lesser your turnaround time would be for a lot of the things, and the more efficient you can be in your overall operations by obviously saving cost, by able to serve customer in a much better way, right? So that's where we do a lot of process analysis. You can build this kind of charts within our visual analytics tool very easily, and that's the kind of advantage you get by putting it something like a process map inside your visualization. Again, like a lot of the finance team want to do the expense analysis, how the spend is happening in each department, be it whether they are spending on the travel or on the softwares or on the like commodities, right? What kind of, and if there are any outliers, you can basically see them, visualize them very easily in your charts, graphs, KPIs, and you can see all the high level KPIs again on a dashboard like this. So again, very important for, I think, for everyone, every organization, not just in banking finance, but for everyone. Post trade analysis, this is again very famous things, especially with the financial services group. Again, applicable to everyone. A lot of bankings, a lot of the teams need to do reconciliation. A lot of the effort goes into the book closure, the end-to-end financial reporting kind of a thing, right? So we have like a framework where you can actually get data, like as I said, right, trade management, risk management, trade compliance. You can get all of the data in a single place, see whether if there are any outliers or not. So and if you have like other kind of data, you'll put into it, if there are any business rules or trade policies, you can actually see them being highlighted in a dashboard, so that if there are any issues, they get highlighted as soon as they can, rather than you waiting for the for the entire reporting to happen next day or some other day. You can actually do it in in almost a real time kind of a fashion. So that's again very critical use case where a lot of visual analytics is done. The cool thing about our visual analytics is we do support of uh, running of the historical data which is residing in your database, and also the running data. Some of the data, like, so you get a lot of the trade data, right? You get a lot of the transactions. We have capability to basically hook our visualization engine to your real-time system, so that they can visualize things in real time as things are happening. And that is something I'll show in the demo also, which is very cool, because you start seeing the historical information as well as the real-time information in one single place. And that's a kind of system which is really cool thing for a lot of the organization, which can help you detect problems, which can help you upsell more, which can help you increase your operational efficiencies in multiple manner. So that is very strong capability we have with our visual analytic tool, and again I'll show that in the demo as well, and I'm sure you all will like that particular thing. Yeah. The last is a lot of the people wants to do reporting. So financial reporting is again very critical part. We have like the capability to build those pixel perfect reports, and those reports can be generated and sent automatically to thousands and thousands of users if you want. And it can be like very automated process, the entire thing of generating those financial reports and those regulatory report as you might think. So be it you want to release something in a document format, RTF, or even JSON or XML files, those can be generated very easily and sent to the people, like your regulatory or for the compliance purpose, or to your shareholders kind of a thing in a very simple manner. So this is again very important use case for building reports or visualization. Yeah. So this covers the visualization part. The story is like any kind of visualization or building the visual apps. We can actually do it starting from basic reporting, KPI, dashboard, to even visualizing things in real time. We even have a mobile app which you can use to visualize important KPIs, especially your executives would want to see that those important KPIs on their mobile, because they might not have time to see it on laptops, so or your screens. So they might want to see it on mobile apps, which we do support, and it's available. It can run in your secure environment of in a very secured environment as well. So that's even not a problem. We have a lot of customers using it in like, and a lot of executives especially want that kind of functionality these days. Yeah. The next we'll go to predictive analytics. So visual analytics is good, right? You can identify a lot of things, you can see a lot of things, but that will still be based on the instinct of the user who is seeing it, and who is basically thinking about it, right? But how do we take it to next level of using the data which is out there and building the trends and patterns which can basically identify and uncover a lot of the things for you which you might not be able to do by just visual analytics. So that's where we dive into predictive analytics. Again, with predictive analytics, the thing we offer is a drag and drop kind of a tool for building the data science and machine learning workflows. So you can build all your workflows of data science, machine learning, statistical functions in one place. So it's all drag and drop tool like this, where you can create your and build your own workflow. You can even utilize our Python code, Python notebooks to actually build those workflows. There are a lot of functions, there are a lot of algorithms which are there, which you can use drag and drop and build a lot of solutions. And I'll talk about what kind of solutions can be built. But the idea is to basically use a tool which is light on the user development, right? We don't want users to basically keep on coding forever and not going anything into production. We want faster time to market. So that's where we believe in the drag and drop capability of the things, where even we have the capability for AutoML. So you can actually rely on AutoML to do a lot of the feature engineering as well as the model selection for you, rather than you spending a lot of time doing that by yourself. So that's the kind of capabilities we are talking about when we talk about the data science. And now I'll talk about the kind of use cases that you can solve with data science basically. So one important use case, obviously, revenue generation is very important part, right? Be it from existing customers or new customers. So how you can basically decide the next best action for your customer, and for each customer, not for a generic set of customer by sending the emails, batch emails through your database and just flooding the emails. And I'm very sad to see, like I'm itself a user of a lot of banking in India. I am like, I have 2-3 accounts, and when I see that they just blast my email every couple of days by sending me random emails, which has nothing to do with what I want. So that kind of system still exists, and I know that a lot of banks, as well as not just bank, right? Financial services, when we invest in equities or when we invest in mutual funds, when we invest in commodity, we if we get more personalized insight on what kind of things similar people like us are buying, or what kind of things can be done, right? That's a kind of information I would like to know, rather than just a blanket email which is a generic one and sent to all kind of a thing. So how you can start by enhancing your journey for best action, and that best action can be in different format, and I'll cover some of this in the coming slides. So when we are talking about this, we are talking primarily about initially you can start with something like decision table, right? So decision tables are nothing but where you configure the rules, and those rules can decide how many number of combinations can be to give different offers or to give different promotional emails. But that is, again, that can handle a limited kind of scenarios, maybe 100 scenarios, or in total, if you are covering one scenario in one email, you can cover maybe 100 scenarios using this. And many of the banks and financial services institution, insurance companies are doing this. But we want to take it more further. So whenever you are sending a particular promotion or an offer to a customer, do you want to run a propensity model and say what is the probability that this customer will particularly accept this, right? And then send them only when the model says you that these kind of models these kind of offers might be effective for that kind of user. So you might want to create more personalized offer, check the acceptance of that offer before that is getting released. And you can actually go to level of 300 scenarios or a more level of scenarios, right? But the idea is to take it much more granular level, much more customer centric level, and building things or building a kind of maybe a big recommendation engine system for banking or your banks or your insurance or for your financial services, to basically identify that if this is the customer, this is his profile data, what kind of things he would be interested in given the all the knowledge of the world I have, right? Because banks, NBFCs, they have like a very good information about a particular customer. Using that information, how we can design new products as well as recommend products to the customer which will be useful for it, right? And again, I'll tie it back to the example of Asian Paints. When I was reading about them, and when they started, actually they started build, they were the first one who built like a small package of paint, because they realize that that is what customer needs. So building new product as well as efficiently delivering which product your customer need is again very important. And the same concept can apply to banking, right? Not everyone needs like you can derive a financial service product which can actually be based on action rather than based on the product itself, right? And what I mean by that is basically you try to build a product to solve a customer problem. If a customer wants to save for his retirement, you build a product around that, and not by taking 2 3 product together and saying that this is something which can solve your problem. So something innovative, right? That's where the innovation can happen, and that's where a lot of the data you have, existing data you have, can be used to build models. And those models will basically tell you that, okay, if this is the type of customer, this is the customer, what he might like or what he might not like. So that is the kind of models we can build for you together using our technology, and get that kind of system in place, right? That's very important for any organization. Again, taking it to specifically, because you want to start it with a high value customer, right? And who better than HNIs or wealth management companies? So that's where like a lot of we are seeing a lot of organizations building those recommendation engine, where basically they are coming up with the technology to so to bundle things in such a way that they can actually uh, find the similarity between the entire customer base rather than just bombarding with a standard product kind of a thing. So it's like every product, every customer has their own kind of product rather than, or a group of customers, right? Not always possible every customer, but if a customer is age 20 to 25 and living in this particular place and earning this much and this thing and this thing and this thing. So when you apply like 20 30 features, right, you can't really build a decision table. Then you really need that modeling to take those 20 30 features, churn out that probability of what this customer will like based on my historical data set I have. So that's the kind of thing we are talking about. And this thing is not just applicable obviously on the high level banking or the consumer banking. It is very relevant there, but especially in insurance, this is very much a lot of companies are actually doing these kind of things. Be it your wealth management systems or be it your equity systems, a lot of the companies want to do this, and they are doing, especially fintechs, right? You'll see a lot of fintechs. There's a concept of robo advisory where people are not advising, robots are advising, right? You can go to a website and basically build a lot of those things. So a lot of fintechs are trying to do it, but how existing bank or existing financial service companies or existing NBFC companies can actually build those kind of robo advisors in their ecosystem is something by using this kind of products, using by this kind of platforms, right? Where you try to target individual customers in a very personalized manner and not on a very generic way. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Again, especially as I was saying, right, fintech is a very important part of the entire ecosystem of BFSI. A lot of the places we are seeing robo advisor things. We are seeing a lot of the chatbots, right? The chatbot, you can make it a very simple chatbot, but the chatbot itself is like a user interface which you type something. But if you have to make it more intelligent, if you have to use more topic modeling in it, if you have to use more NLQ in it in a more intelligent way, and a lot of the things you might not have the people who can do it, but you can actually have these tools where using the drag and drop tools, your existing team can actually build this kind of things rather than relying on experts or heavy paid people to do this kind of things for you, right? Start like even for risk management or for for advisory, be it the insurance advisory, be it the financial advisory, be it the wealth management. In all the places, these kind of entities will, like when I say entities, these kind of robots will actually come and formulate a lot of the products by themselves and deliver to customer, rather than relying on people always, right? Because people are not really good at some of this task when they think about making money for themselves most of the times. And people can be used for actually more productive things like managing customers, getting more customers, rather than putting a lot of effort into the operational engine of things. So that's a very cool area, a very dynamic area where we see predictive and data science being used heavily. Again, we have like more areas where if you have like customers and you are trying to monitor their pattern, you might want to look at the historical data set and see which kind of customers are leaving the organization. And using that information, can I build something? And obviously you can do some of the bit in using your visual analytical tools, but if you want to really automate the entire process, you need something which can actually look at the data by itself, generate the features, generate the models, and those models will tell you what is the probability of a particular customer leaving at a given point of time, right? And that kind of information again can help with the better customer experience. So customer experience is again the key at the heart of everything, right? Where you want to see that if I'm able to detect that this customer who was spending on my services from last 12 months very good, and this month suddenly that customer has start spending less, or he's not spending much, right? So before even that customer actually leaves you, you can actually come to know about this and take some actions. Maybe if he's a very high net worth individual, you can actually have your customer executive talk to him and understand what problem he's facing, so that you can actually solve it. Or if you looking at the data itself, if we find out that okay, this is the kind of trend or pattern we are seeing, what kind of other things we can give to that customer. So that's how you can take action. And again, how you can take action is something I have covered in the next part. This part is all about building those models which can look at the historical data and tell you what should be done. There is a separate engine on who will take that action, right? And we'll go into that in a while. But again, this is very critical, very important for a lot of like customer focused organization to identify customer churn. Credit default risk, right? Obviously this is like the kind of thing everyone would want if they know like who is going to default. But obviously not every time everything can be done, but you can build models which can be super smart. And again, this model can be very much demographically focused and use more features than what you could use by your traditional way, right? So you can actually pass hundreds and thousands of features to this kind of models, and they can actually detect whether a particular customer will default or not. And this can be in terms of customers, specifically when you are lending to the commercial organizations or individuals, or be it your NBFCs specifically, right? They need to really, and that's where I was going. So the part where I was showing the visualization part, right? Visualization part can tell you where the things are failing to, again, using some specific feature list. But if you want to enhance it, or if it is getting too complex for you to manage only using the visual analytics way, you have to put in something more intelligent, like a machine learning model, which can again take the data, like 5-year, 10-year of data, analyze it, and tell that these are the kind of customers who are more prone to default. And you can actually have that kind of models in place to detect the default. Again, when we talk about default, we can take it further in general to any risk, be it credit card fraud, right? So if anyone is swiping the credit card, depending on the scenarios, the different scenarios, you can know what kind of things can give error, can give basically the wrong transactions, right? Or they are fraud kind of transactions. And again, there is a whole lot of list where you can apply this, especially if you do a lot of anti-money laundering, if you are into like credit card, debit card kind of the heavy transactions that are happening. You want to basically make use of modeling to detect fraud on those. You can actually do that. So that is something again you can do using our platform for data science and machine learning. As I talked about the visual part, right? You look at the data, you try to analyze and try to gain some insight. Then you try to take that data and push it to the machine itself, so that machine can actually build the trends and patterns for you. All of these two things are good, but how do you productionize it or operationalize it, right? Is something which is very important. For example, if you got a model which can tell you that, okay, based on these conditions, this is the kind of offer I should give, this is the kind of transaction that can be fraud, this is the kind of recommendation I should give, this is the kind of like credit default I can have. what how do I make use of this model when my real-time transactions are happening? So if a customer is coming to me to ask for a loan, I should be able to execute that model in real time as I'm getting the data, so that I can make that action as fast as possible. That's where streaming analytics come into picture. Streaming analytics is all about connecting to the data in real time, and that data which is in real time can be your market data, your transactions data, from your database. So we have CDC adapters which can actually dynamically read from your databases for any change, rather than you waiting or querying the entire database again and again. We can do CDC. You can have messaging systems like Kafka, like TIBCO EMS, where you are getting high frequency data. You want to basically get that data or transaction data, and you want to act on it. So we provide the connectivity. So once you are connected, you might want to do lot many things, right? You might want to do aggregation, you might want to do transformation, you might want to apply the models, and these models can be generated using TIBCO data science platform, or they could have been written if you have like historical models, right? If you are already using Python and R, and if you already have a big set of people whom you have invested in, and they write models for you, we can use those models as it is in our model ops within the streaming analytics, and basically do the scoring of the model. So for example, when a customer is coming to you and asking for a credit, or even through a website, right, he will come to know immediately, because you will have the transaction being linked to the streaming analytics. The streaming analytics will collect that transaction, apply the model which you have built using all your historical information, and that model will tell you what is the probability of this type of customer giving me the default, right? So based on that, you can make that decision. If the probability is very high, then obviously you might want to filter that out right away. If there is some scope, then you might want to have some human intervention to basically act on it, right? So the idea is to do the scoring of the model in real time as the events are coming in from your real time systems. So you have real time systems, you have already the models, you want to connect this to this. That's where the streaming analytics come into picture. And how do you take actions? Obviously, as I said, the output of the model will always be probability. If there is a particular chance of something being happening, and if you want to automate the action, for example, if the probability of fraud is very high, just mark it fraud. But if there is a scope for some human to basically look at things, you can have a human workflow also. We can call your case management system to act for some human to basically act. If some alert needs to be generated, we can generate some alerts as well, right? On a push notification, if you want to broadcast something, if you want to generate some SMS or some alerts, those can be generated. And there is another part where you will have some operational team who will want to monitor this kind of things, right? So there are operational teams who will monitor if there is some fraud going on or not, if there is some trade issues going on or not, those kind of things, right? Or if there is a high, like even for regulatory purpose, you might do a lot of MiFID regulations and other regulations, right? So those kind of things you can actually do. You can monitor it within our visual analytics tool as well. So you in our visual analytics tool, you can monitor all the things that are happening in the real time using the streaming analytics. And I'll show the demo for this actually. We have a lot of connectors, especially in banking financial. We connect to a lot of market data coming from Barclays, Citi, HSBC, even CME, Bloomberg, Morgan Stanley. Even if you have data coming from some messaging systems, we can connect to it, Kafka, as I was saying. So we can even do databases. We can connect with the databases and get data from that. So we have a lot of connectivity option. We can even connect to social media data if you are looking for something in area of social media for monitoring your customer, what they are posting on your pages basically. So using this streaming, what all things you can do, right? So some of the things are dynamic pricing. Again, in insurance, it's very critical. It's very important to price things important, and for that matter, for everyone, right? Even for NBFCs, if they are lending to individuals, sometimes they might want to change the interest rate based on the customer profile. So you want to look at the customer profile in detail and basically take actions. Those actions can be, again, this is a very generic part of things, where you can actually take a model to make the decision in real time. You can use a decision table to make the decision in real time, or you can just process the data by taking the input and writing it to some storage technology. Anything you want, you can do it. But obviously, with if you have a requirement for doing predictive analytics in real time, that's where you can actually embed the model in real time and take actions as soon as. So for example, if a customer is asking you for a price, what kind of price should be given, that model can actually tell you, and based on the model output, you can decide what kind of pricing should be given, be it insurance, be it NBFC, be it any kind of lending, or the price determination you want to do, right? Even for a lot of the charges, a lot of the facilities you charge, you can dynamically price a lot of those things as well. So a very good use cases for streaming there. FX dealing accelerators. So TIBCO actually ships a lot of the component as accelerator, and what we do is we create the ecosystem around the using our technology, and give this as a starting guide to our customers. So we have something called as FX dealing accelerator, where we have provided a lot of capabilities, right? Like a lot of the algorithms in itself, a lot of the connectivity in place, so you can connect to a lot of market data, get that data, execute a lot of orders in real time. We have seen this a lot in trade monitoring, and particularly the currency market. But you can use it like for a lot of algorithmic trading. We have customers using it for algorithmic trading and other use cases as well. It's pretty generic. It's pretty extensible in that sense. There are many other use cases, as I was saying, right? So be it algorithmic trading, be it risk management, be it market data management. There are concept of smart order routing. If you are interested, you can ask questions and we'll come back to you. I don't want to spend much time here right now, but we do a lot of those things in the real time analytics area, which can be beneficial for you as an organization. Again, we do a lot of business activity monitoring and early warning systems, where again, because this is real-time systems, right? We can connect to your database systems to get the transactions, or to get you connect to your messaging systems. As soon as we get the message, we can track the entire process. We can actually see, or we can monitor any activity if you want, and especially for regulation purpose and other purpose. If those things are or if there are any anomalies or any problem, if those gets highlighted very earlier, that would actually be very useful for you, rather than waiting for the end of the day kind of a compliance, or maybe a week kind of a compliance to get things. So there are a lot of things, and even for critical services, right? If you have again an HNI who is requesting for service, you want to monitor how is the SLA for that particular service being provided. You can monitor that end to end, and if there is any problem, those can actually be solved in real time as the problem occurs. So again, a very classical and very good use case for streaming analytics. So this is like about an end-to-end architecture. I think I have like less time. I'll try to be a little fast here. But again, the idea is, how do we tie this up all together, right? So and this can be applied to any use case. Whatever I'm saying now can be applied to any use case. So you will have transactions coming in. Those transactions can be taken in streaming analytics, and they can be written to historical storage also. So typically any transaction will be written to historical storage. You will use a lot of visual analytics to basically analyze the data, and then you will have something like AI/ML engine, which will basically look at the historical data and build models, right? So the example of this can be like, a very simple example can be card transactions, right? So if those credit card transactions are coming, you are actually storing it also. You are using all the historical data to basically make the model, evaluate the model, and understand the model. You are pushing that model in your real-time engine, where the AI/ML execution is happening, and whenever a credit card transaction is happening, that model will get executed and will tell you whether the fraud will happen, this is a fraud transaction or not. If you have identified something, you can actually monitor them in a real-time dashboard. So that's the operational team can monitor this, and you can take action. So if it is fraud, you can directly cancel the transaction or block the card, or if it is for requesting for a credit, you can decline the credit request, or you can send it to some human person for in the case management system, where a person can actually look into the details of those transaction and basically approve or disapprove a particular thing, right? And but the good part is the chain has to complete. For example, if the model makes a wrong prediction, for example, our model says that this was a fraud, but it was not a fraud, what do? You actually learn from your actions. So whatever action was taken, if that action was not correct, the historical data gets updated. And once that historical data gets updated, your AI model will continuously to learn, maybe every week, every month, every Friday, so that whatever is the learning from the historical mistakes, those can be improved. And over the period of time, your model can become very efficient to basically deliver results. So that's how you can basically tie up the streaming analytics, the visual analytics, and the predictive analytics to deliver the end-to-end solution. Yeah. But I would like to say that if we have a lot of customers who actually use only some component like visual and predictive, or only streaming, depending on the use case, we can actually discuss those things on what is most suitable for you. Yeah. So why TIBCO, I won't spend much time, but obviously we are best in class with technology, the low code environment where you can drag and drop things and build things rather than writing the code in some language. We have a lot of connectors available, accelerators available, so it saves a lot of things. Obviously, cost is one thing, because if you are planning to buy these 3 different things from 3 different vendors, it will cost you always more and it will be very difficult to manage. With us, you can have like a single platform where you can manage this entire thing with one vendor, and will help you with the execution also. So it leads to actually significant cost saving for a lot of our customers. And you have one neck to catch, right? So if anything happens, you can let us know, and we'll obviously fix it for you. So that's again very important. There are some customer case studies, but I'm sure you can get this on internet, so I won't spend much time on this. But we have done a lot of work with a lot of customers across the globe, and we keep on doing a lot of things. So you can find a lot of this information, and I'll share the slides as well. Now, because we have like 7-8 minutes, I think I'll cover some demos. So for that, what I'll do is, this is my streaming engine. So you can see how drag and drop, or how like this entire thing looks like. If you want to look at the flow, you can actually connect to a flow, and this is the model which is getting executed. This model actually comes from the data science platform, and I'll show you that thing. So you can actually have the model coming from a data science platform and execute the entire stream and use it for analysis. I'll use another example for my demo. So I'll use this. I'll start it up. It takes a while to start because it will be connecting to multiple things and running some simulations. So what it does, yeah. So this is like for an insurance, but again, you can imagine this scenario for any retail banking, or for even your financial services. The thing is, like, you will have you have like insurance claim from multiple places, right? So, and this is with respect to a particular hurricane. The analysis has been done, but the analysis again can be irrespective of any situation. So if you have the claims coming from multiple places, you can see the red ones are the one where there are a lot of claims coming from. The yellow are one where it is little less, and the green ones are little better. So this is the state level information you see. Now you can actually go detail one down low, and you can see that which city this information or county this particular thing is happening, right? You can go down again one more level and see the information being generated at the zip code level. So it's taking a while, I think, because of my internet, but it's again very cool that you can actually look at from a entire state level. And this is like the entire country information you are seeing in the KPI. So you see from country to state to county to zip code. And if you want to look at a particular county, you can click on it and you will see that this information gets updated only for that county. So you can actually do those kind of things, right? So and the KPI get updated. So for example, in this county, 27 numbers of names are there. So if you have a regional team, those team will look into the regional data. But as a country manager, I have the flexibility to look at country as well as the state level data. Again, this is very cool. You can do the sales analysis with the same kind of thing. So for example, if you have a sales, right? So this is like a map of Oman, the map of, I showed you the map of earlier. US, but it can be any map. So if you are looking at the sales performance of a particular area, you can actually look at it. If you want to look at all together, you can do it. You can go to city level rather than state level. So with the state level, you will see more granular information, right? So you can do all of those things. Very useful, very good. Again, the CXO dashboard I was talking, there are a lot of things in CXO dashboard you can show, starting from how your business is going in different geographies, how is my loan book, how is my credit accounts going by different products, what is my different things. If I want to use different kind of zoom down, if I want to see a particular area, then I can actually go to it and see in more detail how my revenue is going from last year to this year and so on. So it's pretty dynamic, pretty good. All of these things is self-service. You can build it by yourself, or a lot of the business users can build this by themselves rather than relying on IT. You can have a lot of statement, especially again looking at the net interest income or the operational margins and so on. You can look at your human resource as well, or the headcount analysis. You can actually click on something and see how many contractor in this particular place, how the things are going on. Yeah.
Varun,
Yeah.
Coles
Yeah.
here. So we have a couple of questions coming.
Yeah, give me
Amit
like
wants
2
to-
minutes. I think, yeah, I think
Yeah.
we 2 minutes more and then we'll go to question. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So as I was saying, right, so here you were visualizing the historical information in a very in the visual analytics, but again you can use the streaming analytics which I just ran, right? So you can see as claims are getting generated, you see this getting updated in real time. So you see this is getting updated as soon as my claims are coming, and I'm not doing any refresh or anything. And on the map, things get updated as well. So you see this charts, they are getting updated pretty much every time. And there are few models which are running, which are telling me that if there are any anomalies in the claim, those get highlighted also immediately, so that the anomalies are something which your executives can work on. So that is the kind of thing which we can build in an end-to-end fashion, from connecting to your historical data to your real-time data. Lastly, because we have less time, what I'll do is I'll just show the predictive part, how you can build the models. So there are different ways you can build the models. As I said, right, using R, Python, but you can use our drag and drop tool as well. So for example, if you have, if I show you this model, this is like basically, this is a model which takes my credit data, my demographic data, try to mix it up and try to say whether someone will default or not. It is building that particular model. So and there are different kind of operators I have like operators from I have like ETL operators, I have predict operator, I have NLP operator, I have AutoML operators, and I can just drag and drop and build this workflow. If I want to see the result of it, I can just click here and say I want to see the result for it, and I'll be able to see the result of this particular tab, right? If I want to configure it, again, it's a very easy configuration. You need not write any code. This is just you have to configure it and the models will be ready. Once the model are ready, as I said, you can actually export them, and once it is exported, it can be, so there is an artifact management system wherein once this is exported, you can specify location of our artifact management server or our streaming server, and the streaming server will directly pull it from there rather than you giving any like a static file or any location, right? So that is managed seamlessly with our operational engine of streaming analytics. And this is like the kind of demo, right? I had few more demos to give, but I think we are running out of time.